What is up, everybody? We are going to go on a very quick but very important rant. So earlier today, I asked Twitter or the FinTwit community, what are all the reasons why I might have considered a swing long in for solar? And so we've probably gotten about 30 responses so far. And here's what causes me to now go on my rant is not a single person has mentioned the fact that this stock had news on it. I cannot stress this enough. Like, one of the biggest blind spots of retail traders is that they do not have any clue about news. News is one of the most important variables there is to a stock trader, right? Like, literally, in pure binary terms, whether something has news or no news on it totally determines how I'm going to trade that stock, right? So news is what moves a stock price fundamentally, right? If we look at earnings reports or M&A news or all this sorts of stuff, like, the biggest variable there is there fresh news on this stock? And what I found from doing a lot of these questions over time is that the retail trading world almost virtually never, ever, ever, ever has any clue whether there's news or not on the stock. It is like a perennial thing that I get frustrated with, where nobody ever addresses the variable of news. And why is this important? Because if there's fresh news on a stock, I'm generally trying to go with the trend on that. I'm almost never looking for mean reversion. But if you have no clue about news as a variable and you don't even look to see if there's news, think about how different your trading is. You're probably trying to fade spikes and overextended stuff that's actually not overextended because it's on fresh news. It changes the game and the probability spectrum and the EV so much. The other thing that's ludicrous to me is if you're trying to backtest a setup, the biggest variable there probably is for many of these setups is fresh news or not, right? And so all of your back tests end up totally invalid. So when there's setups like the VVOS that everyone thought was total hindsight, or when there's setups like me getting long GME overnight that one day, or all sorts of different daily patterns, like, if you don't even check for whether there's news or not, your data is going to be totally awful. Like, there's stuff where if there's no news, I want to bet on mean reversion. But if there's news, depending the setup, it might be the totally opposite wrong strategy. And it's just so pervasive. The craziest thing is, like, I understand, right? You don't have the money for Bloomberg or all sorts of stuff. But even here on just like Thinkorswim, whatever, they have the little live news tool, right? It's so easy for me to check. Oh, like, let me click this. Shares of solar stocks are trading higher. Biden administration recently raised tariffs on Chinese solar. So what does that mean, right? That means if there's now tariffs on Chinese solar, US solar, like First Solar, is far more competitive. And this results in a fundamental shift in the prospects of the stock, right? News is the most important variable. Even look at Qualamagi, right? Qualamagi has his stuff so openly available. Why do people still fail? Because they miss the nuances and don't actually do the work to understand why his method works. So many of his trades are these episodic pivots that are based off of fundamental news changing the story for the stock. And so to look at this setup and to say, oh man, this is too overextended, or this has gone too far, or I don't see it, and to have 0 for 30 people mention that, oh my God, this stock had huge fresh news, and I know the 5- whatever I did on First Solar was outdated, but you can just Google search this stuff, right? You can just Google, why is this stuff up? And so then if you're not investing in news sources, you probably need to be. Like, there's a lot of news aggregators that aren't that expensive. Like, most of these run $150 to $200 per month. And if you're saying, oh, I can't afford that, well, for like a lot of traders, like, you're like, this is so fundamental, and to be flying blind otherwise, it's like that could literally change your trading around. So like in no way would I want to be long this stock if there wasn't news. But when there's news, that fundamentally changes every single part of this setup, right? And that's the same for GME. That's the same for why I might short Golf Lima when it does the bouncy ball pattern on that short report. It's the same for so many things where really news is the number one variable. So I know this is a rant. I'm not even going to bother dissecting any other part of this chart. The number one thing for all of you to focus on is you need to be aware of news as a variable. You need to figure out ways to access news and become more informed. You need to figure out, is a news source right for you? What are the cheapest ones? What are the cheapest news aggregators? How does the data in your own trading change once you implement this variable? Because I am telling you, if you are trying to do mean reversion on something with fresh news, you are not going to have fun. If you're trying to do trend following on moves without fresh news, you're going to also have less fun. Like, it is one of the most powerful variables to shift all the odds in your favor or out of your favor if you're totally blind to it. So I know this is a big rant. I know this is probably not the answer that people are looking for, but like, it is a just total epidemic of bad trading in retail world to be totally blind to this variable. So that's the sole purpose of this video. That's the sole purpose of this rant. I highly urge you all to think more about this because it will change your trading. You cannot trade blind to this stuff. It is so important. With that, rant over. The One Lance B out. We'll try this again in the future because I am fed up with you all as trainees. Ugh. No, just kidding. But it's important, guys, so really think about this.